This is the presentation for the CS 5001 Senior Design Project titled What's the Move?
So, just introducing ourselves. My name is Brad Brusewitz.
My name is Caleb Cargill.
I'm Nate Dumford.
And I'm Jonathan Lemon, and our faculty advisor is Professor Ken Berman.
A little bit about our project. Our project title is What's the Move? And essentially it is a mobile application that will allow people to use it and get ideas of activities or things to do at any given time. The user will be asked to input preferences about what they want to do, and an algorithm behind the application will use those preferences along with other factors such as location, time constraints, and number of people to suggest activity ideas to the user. The front end of the application will be mostly consisting of a modern user interface, and then the back end of the application will consist of a web API with business logic and the algorithm that's powering everything, and also a database to store user information.
And so, walking through some of our user stories for our application. So firstly, for the developer, I need to decide what framework to develop in. I need to set up continuous integration for the project. I need to require code reviews to be able to push code to the repository. And I need to set up configuration files for local development. Also, I need a database created so we can read and write data for the recommendations. And I need an API that interacts with the database. And I need a way to interface between the UI and the API. And as a product owner, I need to draw some wireframes to give initial UI design. As a user, need to be able to input my preferences about what I want to do for the night, and those will become constraints. I need to be able to see suggestions of activities. I need to be able to get the location of these set activities so I know where to go. And then I need to be able to see the activity hours so I know if I have time or not, and basically how long the activity will take place. For testing, I need unit tests created for key methods of API to ensure working code. I need to release code in testable units of work. I need to have a way to ensure tests are validated on releases.
Here is a high-level design diagram of the application and how it will work. Basically, the user will have the ability to open the application and input some preferences about what activities they would like suggested to them. And then the application will process those preferences and output some activity ideas. And the user can repeat this process until they close the application. Here's a design diagram with a little more detail than the one before. Basically, when the user opens the application will remember whether they have set preferences already or not. And if they have already set some preferences, then the application will get those saved preferences from the database, process those preferences through the algorithm, and show activities related to those preferences. And of course, the user will be able to change those preferences if they would like. And then finally, here is a even more detailed design diagram. Along with what was said before, this shows how the web API will be used to interact with the database, connecting the front end of the application with the database. This also shows more details about the algorithm that will be used. As you can see, there are 5 different preferences or 5 different inputs that are used in the algorithm. And then finally, as it outputs activities to the user, it also rates those activities based on relevance and then shows the activities to the user in a rated order. And then the user is able to rate the activities that are shown to them so that in the future, the application can have an idea of what activities have been suggested before, but the user did not like, or maybe they did like it and we can prefer those activities in the future.
And so some of our major project constraints are firstly an ethical constraint. Obviously, we don't want to be recommending certain activities and recommending, say, going to a bar to somebody who's underage. So those are some constraints that we need to think about. Our time constraint, just similar to the scope of the project and that realistically what can we accomplish in this coming school year, and decide, based on that, what are we able to build and what are we not able to, and adjust our timeline and goals accordingly. Then our professional and technical constraints, where will we need to get permission from whatever APIs if we're using open source or not, and just some of those things we'll need to consider. And then the social constraint as well.
So far in our project, as you've seen, we've been able to come up with many use cases and user stories for who would be using our application and what that would look like. We also have a rough draft of what our design looks like, what the application will ultimately become. And currently we're researching different things. So our group is a little bit newer to mobile development, and so we are researching what that looks like and how we can develop an application to work on mobile. And we are also looking into Google Maps API because that would be the most ideal place for us to build our application through. And so we're hoping to use Google Maps to be able to gain all the data that we need and the activities to be able to recommend it to a user. In terms of our goals and timeline of this, we are hoping to get a lot of our research done in the next month here. And then by the end of the year, we want to have good designs of what the UI is actually going to look like and a little bit of more the back end framework of that. And then in January and into February, we hope to implement the front end and finish most of our development by the end of February so that in March and April, we can be testing and begin fully getting together our presentation and being able to present.
And for the division of work, there are many components, the first of which being research. We're all going to be researching throughout, and these are just kind of like overall ideas. So Brad's going to be researching the economic, ethical, and legal project constraints. So like we mentioned, like underage drinking and all that stuff, we have to research that to make sure it's okay. He's going to be researching utilizing location services so we can integrate that with our application, and then possible algorithms like machine learning or something. And he'll be doing this with Caleb to make sure that we can learn preferences and then maybe give ideas on our own as to what to do. Caleb is going to be all about the API side. He's going to be researching RESTful web API. He's going to be looking into the integration with Google Maps API as well. And he's also going to be doing the social project constraints. I will be looking in the professional and technical project constraints, and I'll also be spending a lot of my time researching mobile application development, as I've slightly worked with it before. So I'll be looking into frameworks, good coding practices, and all those fields. And then Nate, who'll be working on time as a project constraint. He's also going to help look with how to interface mobile applications with databases, and he's just going to be researching databases in general, and he will be our database expert. So as the front end, Brad is going to be designing the initial UI framework for the wire design. So he's going to say what it should look like, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to pick what we need to do to make that, and then I'm going to go through and I'm going to develop that. For the back end, Caleb is going to be working on the API side. He's going to create a RESTful API to interface with the database, so grabbing activities and all that. And then for users, we decided to do CRUD instead. And then Caleb will also be documenting how to use the API. And then, as mentioned earlier, Nate's the database expert, so he's going to create the database, maintain the database, handle testing with it. And then Caleb will also help in that effort to make sure that we have adequate testing to make sure nothing's broken. And then for project management, we'll all be getting in this as well, because as the team, we're all going to be helping. So Brad is going to implement code review, so we make sure no bad code's getting through and that we're all kind of on the same page as what's being deployed. I'm going to be specifying coding practices, since I'm going to be doing the research and choosing the framework we're using. Caleb's going to be implementing continuous integration so that we can make sure that everything goes smoothly with deployment. And then Nate, he's going to be creating the specifications for the database for all of us. And then for testing, Brad's going to be testing the algorithm. Caleb and myself, we're going to be working on unit tests because we've had experience with that. And then Nate will be developing a testing plan for the release to make sure that when we release code, the tests run and it works as expected. And our expected demo at once the final project is done is we kind of just want to go through and show the basic flow. So the user will sign in, they won't have preferences set, so they're going to set their preferences. So then what's the move is going to go in, decide what to do, display those. Ideally, we go in and we open it up. So we see location, we see the hours, we see like age range and all that. And then so once that's done, we're going to go back in and just kind of repeat this process of changing preferences to show that if you change preferences, it will change the activities and display relevant activities. So if we remove like alcohol as a constraint, it will remove all bars and clubs and would display something else, like maybe a basketball game or something. And so that's the general flow. We're just going to show that it will grab relevant activities and display them, and that you can change the search criteria to get something back that's meaningful. And that is our presentation. Thank you for your time.